The man had just returned home when he was shocked to discover that he suddenly had a pair of 20-year-old twin children. When he heard his wife telling the boy to call him Dad, the man's eyes widened in astonishment. But what he didn't know was that he had gone to a sacred mountain, where one day of life equaled 1 year in the mortal world. And now, 20 years had already passed. But the reason the man went up the mountain was that 20 years ago, his wife's father didn't approve of their relationship. In anger, the man chose to go up the mountain to study magic. But what he didn't know was that his wife was already pregnant at that time. Fortunately, the man was very talented. In just 20 days, he became a grand magician. He even tamed a golden dragon as his pet. Thinking that he now had great power, the man told his teacher that he wanted to go down the mountain to find his wife. But in his hurry to go home, he didn't listen to his teacher's full words. He kept thinking he had only been gone for 20 days, not realizing he had been gone for 20 years. So the man rode on his new pet and left. Meanwhile, his wife, after receiving the teacher's message, also learned that her husband was returning. She immediately became overjoyed and wanted to prepare a welcome banquet, but their clueless daughter thought that the man's return was to seize the family fortune. She immediately went up the mountain to find a powerful magician to defeat her father. But as soon as she got up the mountain, she was entangled by an unknown poisonous snake. Just as she was terrified, she encountered the man coming down the mountain. The man simply used a bit of magic and instantly destroyed the poisonous snake. The girl immediately felt relieved and happy, but before she could react, the man told her to leave. The girl looked at the man in front of her and thought he was the powerful magician she had been searching for. She immediately stopped him and asked where he was going, saying she could go with him. When she learned that the man was lost, the girl offered to guide him. So the man, unfamiliar with the new city, followed the girl to her family's company. But as soon as they arrived, they saw someone being bullied. The man originally didn't want to interfere, but the next second, the bully Jack set his eyes on the girl and demanded she go with him. The man immediately used magic to teach all of them a lesson. Looking at the man who had saved her again, the girl suddenly began to admire him and couldn't help but feel her heart flutter. Before leaving, she even made sure to get his contact information. Little did she know, the man in front of her was her father, who had been missing for 20 years. Soon, the girl returned home, and before her mother could ask where she had been, she heard the girl talking about her day's experiences, and even told her mother not to bring her father back. Seeing her daughter so resistant to her husband, the woman decided not to tell her the truth. She planned to wait until her husband returned to explain. Seeing her daughter so admiring, the mother couldn't help but suspect that her daughter had fallen for the man she spoke of. So she immediately decided to have her daughter bring the man to the banquet, saying she would help her judge the man's character. Little did she know, the man she was speaking of was actually her own husband. Meanwhile, the man, after the girl had left, encountered Jack again, this time bringing along the company's young master to seek revenge. But the man simply used magic and knocked them all to the ground. Seeing all his men sent flying, the young master James immediately stepped back in fear, but the man didn't plan to let him go. Without hesitation, he walked over to James and gave him a few blows. James then remembered his mother saying his father was a grand magician. Hearing this provocation, the man was about to teach James another lesson, but James, terrified, took his men and fled. Then the man received a call from his wife. Hearing that she had prepared a welcome banquet for him, he immediately agreed. After hanging up, he quickly mounted his pet and left in haste. While the man was still rushing to the hotel, James had already arrived there ahead of him. As soon as he entered, he cried to his mother, saying that on his way to invite the guests, he had run into a man who, before he could say anything, had beaten him up. Hearing her son's complaint, the woman immediately promised him that she would have her husband avenge him. Little did she know, the man her son spoke of was her own husband. At this moment, the man finally arrived at the hotel where the banquet was being held. But just as he was about to enter, he was stopped by the security guards at the door, saying he couldn't bring his pet inside. The next second, the pet, feeling insulted, immediately used magic to send the guards flying. The guards stared in shock at the creature before them, but the man told them not to call it a pet. It didn't like that. Just as the guards were at a loss for words, Jack showed up with his men at the hotel entrance, provoking the man to leave. But with just a gentle wave of his hand, Jack staggered back in fear. Seeing that the man didn't attack further, Jack thought he was afraid. But at that moment, the girl appeared in front of them, demanding to know what they were doing. Jack looked at the girl before before him and couldn't help but mock her, saying she'd be better off with him. But the next second, he heard his friend say that the girl was the company's heiress. Jack immediately grew terrified and begged the girl to spare him, but the girl refused to forgive him and immediately ordered him to leave. At that moment, James also appeared at the hotel entrance, looking at his sister in confusion, not understanding why she was there. But seeing his sister close with the man, he assumed the man was deceiving her feelings, so he rushed to his sister and lied, saying their mother was looking for her. But as soon as his sister left, James immediately changed his expression and began mocking the man as nothing but a vagrant, boasting that his father was the most powerful magician, demanding the man kneel and apologize, or else his father would teach him a lesson. But at that moment, the sister hurried back, directly exposing her brother's lie, saying their mother never asked her to come. James, seeing this, still tried to lie, but at that moment, their mother appeared before everyone.